Hello and welcome to the Red Laugh Riot podcast. My name's Matt. My name's Matt. And the guy laughing hysterically, well, his name is Ben.
Hold on. And I'm Ben. Today is a special episode of the podcast because today is October 21st, and that is the day that Doc and Marty arrived in the future in 2015, which is just because it's this really important special date. We thought we'd do something fun with it. So we're kind of got a general Back to the Future theme throughout. We'll get to that soon after our first segment, which is reading the headlines, which is where we read some headlines from Reddit and discuss them. What is this? Sorry, I'm just watching a GIF. This is at the top, so I just had to watch it through before I talked about it. This is some kids in elementary school have held a surprise party for their beloved school custodian. And you see the GIF, basically, he walks into this gym, and there's just 100 kids sitting down in this gym, waiting to surprise him, and then he gets all flustered. It's quite beautiful.
How old is this janitor guy? How old is he?
What?
Are we talking how old is the
janitor?
Janitor.
Oh, I'd say he's in his 30s.
Okay.
It's hard to tell. It's quite a wide shot, and it's a GIF, so it's not easy to see details.
Yeah. Oh, that's
20s
so
or 30s.
nice. Aw.
That's wonderful.
That's
really inspiring.
What a lovely thing to sit. Well, I haven't actually seen it. But just it's just a nice gesture, isn't it? It's like it's you see those things and it's like it just gives you like the warm and fuzzies, you know? It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Needs more. We need
weird.
more of that in the world.
It's like they say it's a party, but it's just a bunch of kids sitting on the ground. There's no tables with food or anything.
Oh.
So one of the top comments is, "I hope you didn't have to clean up after the party."
You probably did though.
Yeah, the janitors. It's like the thankless job. It's the thing we everyone's just not. It's the kind of job that everyone kind of no one wants to do that job. So everyone thinks that if you're doing that job, you must have no life or something, which only makes it even more depressing for the people who actually have to do that job. Yeah. So this is really lovely.
Yeah, I remember in primary, at my primary school, we had our janitor was like this, at the time he seemed really old, but he was probably only 60 or something, or 50 or something. I don't know how old he is now, but yeah, he was the sweetest guy, eh? Everyone was like, "Hey, it's Mr. Pipkin," you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know I that janitor sort of situation, or caretaker is what we call them. So I had that in primary, and then I remember in intermediate, the janitor was a real old grouch. You know what I mean? So then we had
Right. Yeah.
So then there was that huge contrast, between the two schools, but I don't know, it was just,
Yeah.
I think it's a case of it's a situation where I'd imagine that this janitor is relatively well liked, and then so it's sort of the student body is sort of oh, we should do something, for him, which is really cool because you were on about, it's sort of one of those jobs where like people don't really think about them much, but like it's a job that has to be done, you know. So
Yeah.
it's so important. But it's I don't know. It's just so cool. Like
Yeah, I think would
just
like it would
yeah.
definitely like it definitely helps when they are considered like part of the staff. Like, because at least here in New Zealand, the schools I've been to, the
Mm,
two schools I've been to, the cleaners are like hired separately. They're not really like staff, and they're not there during the day. They just come after, right, and they clean
yeah.
up at the end of the day when no one's around. And
Yeah.
so the odd time that you see them because you're around late or whatever, it feels real weird because you've never
Yeah.
seen them before, and they feel like these foreign people who, I mean, most of them literally are foreign people. That you kind of feel weird to associate with just because they're not normally there and they don't feel like they're part of the school. Whereas like it seems like in American culture, in American schools, it's slightly different where the janitor's there during the day, and at least they might feel slightly more like they're part of the school. So it'd be good, like, for schools to, have them at their school assemblies and introduce them and, like, just like you would with any other staff member,
Mm,
um, treat them like any other staff member. And then they'll
yeah.
feel more included, and then people will also feel more inclusive. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah.
No. Yeah. That's interesting that you mentioned that sort of disconnect of the caretaker to the rest of the the like staff in the school and that because I remember at my primary school we would um our our caretaker was like always there, like he seemed to be there
Right.
during like school hours and that. So I think that's I totally agree with what you were saying there, and sort of up to the school and sort of I think also just the culture of how society looks at those who are in those types of jobs, you know what I mean? Like we sort of undervalue those people,
Yeah.
which is which is really disappointing because it's like I said, it's sort of a job that like someone's got to do.
This It's interesting that you mentioned that actually your caretaker, because that's slightly different from a janitor. Or at least the caretaker at my school was like the groundsman, the person who, the kind of person that fixes things and takes care of the gardens and cuts the grass and stuff. They were there during the day, and so people did actually kind of know him a bit better.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the actual cleaners who come in and vacuum and all that kind of stuff.
Oh.
No one knows them. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I guess there's that difference.
The cleaners are usually outsourced.
Maybe that's where I'm getting confused. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm getting confused because I have this image in my head of American schools because you also see it in Community, the TV show, where there's this janitor that, like, comes back in a few episodes, like, every time they've had, like, a massive paintball war and it's just, like, garbage everywhere and paint everywhere. And you see, like, it's just this one janitor cleaning up the whole school. It's like, is that how it actually works? In the US, is there
No.
just one janitor cleaning it? Like, surely not, right?
Yeah, surely not.
Yeah, that wouldn't
Yeah.
make much sense.
It's got to be like a team, of like 3 or 4, I reckon.
Yeah.
All right, what's the next?
Next headline.
Yeah, next headline.
This is from Today I Learned. Some farmers in Bangladesh have switched to raising ducks instead of chickens because during catastrophic floods, ducks float. Isn't that hilarious?
It's fair enough reasoning, eh? Because what were they?
Yeah.
Does it say what they were raising before? Like just every other animal that's
Chickens.
traditionally chickens.
Instead,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually ever had duck. Like I've ate a lot of
Mm.
chicken, but I haven't had a lot of duck.
Do
But
ducks?
like,
I assume ducks also lay eggs, but do people eat duck eggs? I've
I
never
don't know,
heard of
do
that.
they? Do people eat duck eggs? Google, my best friend. Um, Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Apparently, according to the Countryside Network, duck eggs stay fresher longer due to their thicker shell. Duck eggs are
Really?
also richer and have more omega-3 fatty acids. People who cannot eat chicken eggs due to allergies can often eat duck eggs. Wow, I learned something
Nice.
new
Yeah,
today. Yeah,
exactly.
no, makes sense. Too many like cyclones and
I
that
mean,
in Bangladesh. Or do they call them monsoons over there? I think they call them monsoons. Too many monsoons, too much rain, right? Chickens drown. So they're
yeah,
like, hey, let's
yeah,
grab some ducks who like float.
yeah. Ducks can fly as well, right? Like, whereas chickens can't. So they're like the most versatile bird. They can
Yeah,
swim and fly.
yeah, makes sense. It's a logical move. I mean, I think the funniest thing about ducks is that they look so like serene and like peaceful above the water, right? But their legs are actually underneath, just like frantically kicking along. And I don't know why I find that
Yeah,
so funny, but I do. I think it's kind of a metaphor for just people in general in their day-to-day lives. Everyone pretends like they're like all sweet, but really inside everyone's struggling. What a metaphor.
it's very deep.
All right. Have you got another headline there, Ben?
Yeah, this one's interesting. It's a photo of an airline crew sleeping on the floor. The title is This is a Ryanair 737 crew based in Portugal, stranded in Malaga, Spain, a couple of nights ago due to storms. They were forced to sleep on the floor of the Ryanair crew room because Ryanair didn't care to book them a hotel room.
Wow.
I don't know how anyone can even. I don't think I could fall asleep at all if I was on like it's like a hard floor.
Yeah.
Like I don't even. I couldn't deal with that. I would leave. I'd, I'd catch another flight back home and quit my job. Like if that happened, that's pretty
Yeah.
bullshit, really.
No, that is, and it's pretty cold for the airline not to put them up, to put them up in a hotel for the night as well.
Yeah.
Like,
Apparently there are at least 400 hotels in and around the city, and it's currently like a low season. So most hotel occupancy rates are at about 50%.
yeah.
So there's no excuse at all. I would
No,
just
there's not.
leave. I would just never go back. Because the thing is, like, how can they expect them to like do their job properly? They're gonna like be so tired because they'll have such bad sleep.
Do you know if it was just the cabin crew or if it was the cabin crew plus the pilots?
It just says Ryanair 737 crew. I'll check. There's a whole comment with a backstory.
Yeah.
Blah,
Because
blah, blah.
cause crew to me, crew usually refers to just the flight attendants. I mean, because like
Yeah,
with the whole thing of doing their jobs properly, you'd want the pilots to get a good night's sleep. Otherwise, like in the case of like, what if there's like an emergency? Because then if you have a bad, I would imagine like sleeping, like a sleep deprived pilot would be as bad as a sleep deprived driver, you know. So there'd be that issue as well.
yeah. It doesn't say. I assume it's just the flight attendants.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Wow, and I thought Jetstar was bad.
Oh, they're terrible. Yeah.
That joke didn't land. It was so. Hey, it didn't land. Get it?
Oh god. No, it did not.
Tash, if we could edit that together to make it seem like I'm funnier than I actually am, that would be great. Um, I think now it's time to move on to our second segment, which is top five. It's lifted slightly from a film called High Fidelity, where they make their own like little top five lists occasionally. Um, and our topic today, in sort of a homage, if you will, to the to our topic of Back to the Future, is top five things we would like to see in the future. Um, I'll go first this week. Um, so preface to mine is I tried to, A, they're not really ranked that much, and B, I sort of tried to have them in different areas, like not just a bunch of tech stuff. Um, but I
Yeah.
sort of ended up failing on that because everything ended up being tech and I couldn't think of much. I was gonna go like have a tech thing, like have another thing, have like a music thing, have like a sport thing, but I just gave up. Um, so my number five pick is something I'd like to see in the future is a female president of the United States. Um, because
Uh-huh.
we got oh so close in 2016 with Clinton. Unfortunately, Clinton
Mm.
was not the best pick for that. I didn't really like Clinton. I was a Bernie Sanders fan. Sanders, what a lad.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
um, no, it would just be nice to see. I mean, the US is a, is a modern country, and it's kind of weird that they haven't had a female president yet. And that's not to say I don't think. Um, I hope that when a female president does come, it's a president whom is capable and is the best fit. Which I think Clinton was a better fit than Trump, but I hope it's a better fit than Clinton was. Um, but yeah, I think it's something like I don't think you should like when it comes to officials and that or like jobs or whatever. I don't think you should necessarily get the job because you're a woman or because you're of a racial minority or anything like that. I think you should get the job because you're the most well versed for it. But
Yeah.
having said that, I think we do need more diverse representation in all facets of life, whether that be in politics um, or in politics or in the film industry or in business. So yeah, no, that would be something that would be really cool, and I hope I do see it in my lifetime. And I think I hope I'll see it in my lifetime. Um,
I'd say almost definitely.
yeah,
Like, it's got to happen.
it's got to happen. Yeah,
We're
yeah,
past the point where women are considered people who can't do that. Obviously it's been proven last year because she had such a following.
yeah,
Um, was it last year? Jeez, 2 years ago. Yeah, like it's obviously we can have women candidates now that will do well in the campaign and potentially get in. I don't see why there wouldn't be a woman president in the next 10 years.
sweet.
Um,
Ben, what's your
right.
number five pick?
Mine if I'm similar. It's like these are in order, but like obviously I haven't thought of every single possibility to be like it's not like ranking music or whatever. Jeez, I've said
Yeah,
this for the last three podcasts.
yeah, you have, you have.
These are just some. These are basically they're just some things that I could think of. They're basically the first five things that I could think of.
Yeah.
And the first one's pretty. Who wouldn't want this? World peace. I mean, like seriously,
Okay.
seriously,
I
just stop. Just stop with the wars. I mean, they're just pointless. They're just. I don't get it. I touched on this in like our first podcast where I talked about um, my least favorite word being hate, and like
yeah,
how I just don't understand how people can just hate out of kind of no reason, or even depending on the reason is like why it has to lead to war, and why I don't understand war. Like why is war fought by just like using people as dispensable guns? Like people who can just die off in the it's just a number. Now it's just like soldiers, a number of soldiers versus another number of soldiers. It's not like it doesn't make sense. Like you're just
yeah,
wasting human life.
yeah.
Like what are you gaining? What does anyone gain out of any war? I don't.
Yeah, well,
Um,
there was a really good quote or line that said, I think it was a quote, and then it was used in a Linkin Park song that I really like, and it was, when the rich wage war, it's the poor that die. And I was like, oh, because you asked who benefits from a war, and it's actually like all the arms dealers and all the super rich people who benefit
right.
um, from it.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you on the whole like world peace aspect. Um, I didn't put it in because I thought it was too much of a beauty pageant answer.
I mean, I agree. Like the beauty pageant answers are pretty cringy. How they always
Yeah,
do that, but it's a genuine. Like it's because they. I don't know if they're really passionate about that. They're probably not. Whereas I'm
yeah,
like it's a serious point. Like
yeah,
it just it's frustrating. It's frustrating to see the world like this as it is. Or as it has been for the last. Like, it's always been like this. I guess people have always wanted to be on top.
yeah.
For any number of reasons.
I
Yeah,
mean,
so sad.
I think it's interesting with war and how it's progressing and what wars are being sort of fought over versus what they were fought over, in times past. Because I think in the future, at some point we're gonna end up having like water wars. Like we'll be fighting, like it'll be states against states, but fighting for control of like waterways and stuff when fresh water becomes less and less plentiful.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I totally agree with you on the whole like war being a complete waste of human life. Um, but on the other hand, I'm also like, all right, this. I don't know the word of how this is gonna come across. I think this is gonna come across slightly sociopathically. That's a word. But I think we need another war, like a big war, to kill off a bunch of people.
Or
My reasoning
you just
is,
overpopulation? Is that
yeah,
why?
is overpopulation. I think we need to like kill off like a third of the population, and that will like ease the tension on the world. Um,
Um, you're sounding a little bit like Thanos right now.
yeah,
There are other ways to kill off population. There's plague.
yeah,
There's nukes. None of these are good options. The better option is to move to Mars. Well, sorry, to colonate. Actually, colonate the moon first, then
yeah,
move to Mars. Because once you colonate the moon, it makes it much easier to get for general other space exploration and space travel. Um, Elon Musk was like, it's last year I think he said it's 2017. Why don't we have a moon base yet? You know, and
yeah,
I guess like it's true. Like since we went to the moon, since we I don't know when that went back in the 70s or whatever, they shut down the space program, right? And they stopped going to space. Like, what's with that? Like
yeah,
if you want to deal with the problems that we have here on Earth, there are things we can do in space, both through scientific exploration, um, and also just straight up colonizing other planets. That
yeah,
we can help spread out. Like there are other ways to reduce Earth's population, but the better way is to increase the resources. I guess increase the efficiency. I'm sure there's plenty of research being done into the increasing the efficiency and productivity of producing certain resources and all that kind of stuff. Like that's important,
yeah.
and making sure we use renewable resources rather than just wasting all
Mm, very true.
the oils and the coal and whatever the non-renewable stuff. Because
Yeah,
that's when if your resources deplete and your population goes up at the same time,
yeah,
that's not gonna be fun. But if you have
yeah,
a renewable increase and renewable resource and you increase it exponentially at the same time as the population goes up, then you'll always be able to feed the population.
yeah,
Um, and if you ever want to say, what about overcrowding? That's that would not. That's pretty much never going to be an issue. I think I watched a video at some point from I think it was from ASAP Science. I think.
hey,
Anyway, there was a video explaining how you shouldn't be afraid of overpopulation, like and overcrowding, because there's a lot of space on Earth. There's a lot of
yeah,
ways we can move people out around land masses, and even maybe you could make some underground, not underground, yeah, oh well, underground and underwater ocean. There's all this kind of stuff that we can do that no one's really tried. Um, as well as space as well. Like there's plenty of room to move out and spread out that we still haven't really done. Um, and a lot of that starts with also moving into like third world countries and places that are less well off, developing, investing and developing in technology and infrastructure in those countries will help improve. everyone's eyes, because obviously you improve their lives, but you also create a space that is now more friendly to other people to move into and to migrate to, and so we can spread out a bit more, so we're not all in these giant Western urban places. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I think like just think about how big Africa is, like the continent.
yeah, yeah,
Like it's huge. Like you could fit the entire world's population on that easily,
yeah.
and still have plenty of room to breathe. So yeah, I
I mean
think
the
I
problem,
think a lot can be done
I mean the
besides
problem,
starting a war.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the problem with like some of that is that like in Africa and in other continents, Australia is a very good example. Um, where yeah, sure, there's like a bunch of open space, but is that open space livable? And the answer to that is like a resounding no. Um, but you did mention something that links perfectly to my next point actually. And that's the my fourth pick, which is the mass adoption of green energy or renewable energy. Um, so yeah, I really want to see sort of people moving away from the use of fossil fuels, because obviously there's the environmental um, impact of it. Um, I know in New Zealand we're pretty good, because I know we get most of our energy from hydro, um, as opposed to fossil fuels. So we have that going for us, but I don't think we're at 100% renewable energy. It'd be nice if we could get there, as well as other countries adopting it, as well. Yeah, so that's something that I definitely would really like to see in the future is more countries adopting it and taking more aggressive steps towards the adoption of renewable energies, because it's something that we definitely need in our, that definitely the world needs because of the impact of fossil fuels on climate change and how that impacts everything. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's like I think I think the major problem with sort of environmental policy at the moment is in terms of the world is that everyone's going and I think I mentioned this last week's podcast, is that everyone's going, oh, like we can't do anything, so we
Mm,
should have like we can't do anything, so what's the point? But everyone's doing that, so no one's doing anything. And it's like we need to actually do
yeah,
something because it's future generations that are gonna suffer because of our
yeah.
inaction. And I'm a huge hypocrite.
I think a lot of people don't care about future generations.
Yeah,
It's like a lot of people just selfishly like, well, I'm gonna die within the next 50 years, so why do I care?
yeah,
Like, you know
exactly.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people have no empathy for people who will exist beyond their time. Um, Tash has just said every house should have at least one solar panel. What would you?
100% agree.
What would you? Yeah. How would you feel if the government like introduced a thing like a law or like a legislation or whatever, so saying that you had to have a solar panel and that they would like obviously pay for it or something, like what if they actually did that? What if they just went across New Zealand and
Yeah,
just installed solar panels in everyone's roofs? I mean,
it'd be
they would
amazing.
pay for themselves, wouldn't they? Like,
Yeah, I mean, there
surely.
is research out that it takes X amount of time for it to pay itself. I mean, I think there's also a point
Yeah.
of you can if there's like so much energy being made, um, well, main's not the right word because energy can't be made according to some scientific law that I can't remember. Um, but harnessed rather,
Yeah.
um, and then like stored. I remember there was some solar, like some like yeah, solar energy sort of being stored in that, and then power companies were buying the power like from customers. because
Really?
because there was like a surplus. Don't quote me on
Oh,
that. I've probably got my facts slightly wrong, but it was something like that. And I remember like watching it
right.
on the news or whatever and being like, "Oh, that's really interesting. That's so cool." So yeah, I totally think that, you know, the mass adoption of renewable energies, whether they be solar, whether they be hydro, whether they be wind, um, should be adopted all across the world. I think that's something that governments need to prioritize. Yeah, I think it's something that governments need to prioritize for sure.
Yeah,
Because
it's kind of weird that like it's the private companies, like power companies and companies like Tesla, who are making this, who are like selling this stuff, making it happen, and that it's on the consumer to do it. Like you'd think that the government would be more involved and would like be more interested in like encouraging people to do it or like helping people get this renewable energy because it affects them as well.
yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it's just something that sort of it's sort of a like why why aren't we doing anything about it? But on the other hand, I'm a giant hypocrite. Because I know for a fact I don't do enough. It looks like Tash has also linked us an article from The Guardian, which says that a new solar cell captures energy from raindrops. This new device is designed to prevent power output plummeting when the sun isn't shining, but practical application is still some years off. That's really cool news as well, because I think that's one of the things that opponents to solar energy bring up is the fact that, oh, well, when it's raining, it's useless. Um, but in that scenario,
Yeah.
it can be then used year round, which is really really cool. Ben, what's your fourth pick?
My fourth pick is something that I would love to experience in my lifetime, and that is the Hyperloop, which
Oh
if you don't know
yes,
is basically
yeah.
like a giant like pneumatic tube type train thing that
Hmm.
is just a really fast, efficient way of transport. Um, I don't know if it's as fast as a plane or
Yes,
not. I don't know. I can't remember exactly
yeah,
how fast it is, but at least a lot faster than a train for sure.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that's something that is being looked into, and I can't remember if they've built any prototypes yet or not. Um,
Yeah.
but something I definitely want to see and be able to use, so that you could take, maybe a 1 hour, not even 1 hour. Well, yeah, it could be an hour or less trip down the country, up and down the country. Like it would make travel much easier and more efficient because you wouldn't have to spend all the petrol because it'd be I can't remember how it works, but obviously it wouldn't need all the petrol that you need in like jet planes. So like yeah, much more efficient way of travel that I would just love to experience because it sounds like such a cool kind of futuristic thing that you only see. It's like it makes me think of in The Incredibles, but that's not quite what like he's in that little round thing that's on a
Yeah,
rail.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's kind of like that, but if he was inside the tunnel and not on a rail, just like a pneumatic tube that just gets kind of sucked through the pipe. I can't remember. I
yeah,
don't know exactly how it works, but it like gets sucked through the pipe and
yeah.
it goes really fast.
Yeah, I remember reading a thing. Yeah, I remember watching a thing, and it was saying that I, again, don't quote me on this, but it said something like, I think it was a trip to like, I want to say LA to New York or something, would take like 36 minutes or something, like on this
Right.
Hyperloop. And that was
Yeah.
insane. I was like, oh, that's amazing. That's so cool. Yeah, I would definitely like travel on that for sure. And especially
Yeah.
if it's, energy efficient as well, is just an added bonus to the quickness of the of the journey as well.
I actually might even be faster than a plane because I'm reading a couple of headlines here that say it could reach up to 1,000 kilometers per hour,
Yeah.
whereas planes are around like 8 or 900, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Um,
they're eight. 8 or 900.
Yeah, so that would be pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I first found out about this video, sorry, about the Hyperloop from a guy on YouTube called Cold Fusion, who I mentioned in our YouTube episode 3, I believe that was. I hope I didn't get that wrong. No, it was episode 3. Yeah.
Yeah, it was episode 3.
And he explains the Hyperloop and the potential for it. And this was 2 years ago that he made this video, and I haven't really heard any updates recently. So I kind of don't know exactly where it's sitting in terms of its development, but yeah, it's definitely something I want to see.
Yeah, for sure.
It's and not only for passenger travel, but for goods as well.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Super great. Yeah.
Yeah, for like shipping and stuff.
Yeah.
Imagine
Yeah, absolutely.
buying something like online. That'd be awesome. Yeah. All right. So we've now reached my number 3 pick. So I decided to do something a little more, to have a pick that was a little more, for lack of a better term, selfish, I guess. And that was my third thing that I want to see sometime in the future is Red Laugh Riot being my full-time job.
Sneaky.
I had to sneak it in.
I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
Yeah, so I put this in because doing this sort of stuff for a living is sort of my dream, you know, to make content online that's high quality content, and that's, you know, starting with these podcasts and then evolving to doing other types of content, whether that be gaming content or live action content such as sketches or like more sort of documentary style stuff as well. Yeah, in fact, we have we have a meeting tomorrow actually. How to Date a Podcast is about us getting together and sort of listing all our ideas for content that we want to make, which is something I'm really excited for, getting into that pre-production process. It's something that I'm really excited about. Yeah, and I really do hope that this will become my full-time job, because it's something I've been thinking about for a very long time. And it'd be really cool to get to that point in the future. Sort of picked it as more of a selfish pick, but I was like, I sort of wanted my top 5 not to be like all tech picks, you know, like technology related picks.
Yeah.
I sort of wanted to vary it up as much as I could, so I was like, hey, I'll chuck something in that's like something I want to see in myself in the future.
All right. Well, my number 3 is another tech one, but I mean, it's also a social one, and not social as much as a societal thing, which is a completely driverless future. Like, it's gonna happen for sure, and I'm excited to see it happen, because I was always like I was always like afraid of driving. That's why I didn't learn to drive till like literally last year. And like I kind of like I was just holding out, hoping that I could survive with like Uber and then eventually a driverless car. But I think I'm born maybe about 10 years too early for that, maybe, you know, for that to happen. So I do have to deal with it and get a car and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think I'm definitely excited to see a future where we don't need to drive. Like, it all happens, and it'll be way more efficient as well, because, you know, once no one's driving, you can increase the speed limits. The computers are much smarter than we are. As much as people are like, oh, I don't want to trust a computer with my life, it's definitely less likely to crash than you, for sure. Yeah, it's kind of what I really have to say. If you've seen Minority Report, that's kind of like a maybe a bit over the top in terms of the possibilities, but something like that, you know, where you just jump into the car and it just goes.
Yeah.
super efficient, and you don't have to think about it. You know,
Yeah.
that's I think definitely going to happen,
Yeah.
and I'm excited for
Um.
that. The only thing is the issue around like making you'd have to have certain cities that become driver 100% driverless, so it would be like illegal to drive your own car because you would increase the crash rate. Because if you have all these cars going 70 to 100 k's down, the city street because they can go that fast when humans aren't controlling. But then you have one guy who wants to drive his own car. That's going to be a huge hazard. So they'd have to enforce. Obviously they couldn't raise that speed limit until it became 100% driverless.
Yeah.
Um, and there are always going to be people who want to drive their own cars. So we have to be certain decisions made around that, whether certain cities adopt that or not, which will be very interesting to see how that actually happens. Yeah.
For sure. Um. All right. Moving on to my second pick. Um. And that is, I want to see a man on Mars or a woman on Mars. I don't really care. Just humans on Mars. Um. Yeah. Nah. I mean, because sort of, the sort of 60s generation, sort of had the moon, so it'd be really cool if our generation had, someone on Mars. Um, Especially if they managed to somehow, like, live stream it back. That would be really cool. Um, yeah. Um, it's, I don't know, it's something that's just really interesting to me. In terms of all the maths and the science that they do to get there. And I think it's definitely going to happen within the next couple of years. And it'll just be really interesting to see that. It'll be really interesting to see that that come to light. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. I guess I kind of touched on that earlier, saying how we need to colonate. So yeah, I totally agree. Needs to happen. My number. Oh, geez, we're up to number two already.
Yep.
My number two pick is seamless AR glasses or augmented reality. Um, or I guess contact lenses is another option. But basically, if you don't know what augmented reality is, it's basically the idea is like if you might have heard of Google Glass, which did a kind of prototype years ago, which didn't really take off or go anywhere. But like the idea is you have a pair of glasses, and you can see things placed in real life in in your view. I mean, you can do it on your phone as well. You could have there are certain apps where like you can look around the street and there will be like uh, menus and stuff, information about the shops and the cafes or whatever that you're looking at and all that kind of stuff. So it's basically putting digital vision or digital information in your vision that relates to the real world that you're looking at. And my stress on this is that it has to be seamless. So like Tess has just said, there will just be ads everywhere.
Probably.
Depends who you buy your glasses from. If you're buying them from Apple, I guarantee that won't happen. So Apple is working on this technology, and there are rumors saying they're going to come out with a product in 2020, because 2020 version.
Hey.
Anyway, dumb joke. I don't know if that's why they are saying that or not, but yeah, it could happen quite soon. And yeah, like I was saying, it needs to be seamless, so it can't be something that impairs your vision or is a nuisance. Um, it has to just feel natural, and that's something that Apple's really good at. They're really good at making their products feel like a natural extension of your human experience. With the Apple Watch is a lot like that as well. Um, yeah, and so just having these things where you can just go about your daily life, and just look at things. You see, in Infinity War, Tony Stark has these glasses that he puts on near the start of the movie that kind of do that, and looks, he sees what he's you know looking at. I don't think you really see the interface, but you can tell what he's looking through. Is that kind of technology? Um, and one example of a thing that I'd really love is, which is specifically more tech related, is you could have external monitors for your computer or your TV or whatever in your glasses. So you might have one monitor, one real monitor. Then in your glasses, you see a second monitor and it looks just like a real one. And so you use it as a secondary monitor for your computer, or you could use it for like split screen gaming, so that you could just literally have like everyone has their own TV in their glasses that they see and they play through. So you don't have to have these tiny split screens. Like that'd be just great.
Oh, that'd
Like
be
there's so
so
many
cool.
applications for augmented reality beyond just like telling you what time the shop opens that you're looking at. Like that's kind of like the primitive, like most basic function. But if you can make it seamless and incorporate all these, there's so many ideas and things that you can do with it. It'd just be brilliant. I'd love to be able to experience that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely does sound like really cool. Um, one of my things about it is, with the um, with Google Glass, my problem with Google Glass, and obviously that was sort of like an earlier version, is it just the glasses just look so bad. It was like,
Oh,
why?
absolutely. That's
It was
yeah.
so terrible. But yeah, I mean, if they can like sort of if they can tighten up that technology, that would be really cool.
Google Glass wasn't even a pair of glasses. It was just it was a single piece of glass right in the top corner of your eye, and this, band across your head to keep them on. Which just that's why it looks terrible. But if they just looked like regular glasses, you know,
Yeah,
it would,
yeah,
it would feel seamless. It would
yeah.
only be weird because now everyone would be wearing glasses when they
Glasses,
normally
yeah,
don't. But I
yeah,
mean, there are plenty of people who wear glasses every day, so it would just be like that, really.
yeah.
Um, or like contact lenses is like a far fetched idea. Obviously, you see that in like I think that happens in Mission Impossible and all these sorts of sci-fi shows. I think there's
Yeah,
one in Black Mirror like that.
probably,
You know,
yeah.
yeah, which is obviously less attainable. You know, um, but yeah, just something like glasses, like a nice looking pair of glasses. Like similar to what they've done with the Apple Watch. Apple has made it kind of like a stylistic thing as well. So that obviously had different kind of styles of glasses that you can choose from and different colors and all that kind of thing. So that it's not just some dumb sci-fi looking Star Trekky kind of thing. It actually looks fashionable. It looks like a real thing that you'd see every day, and inside it you get this augmented reality experience. Yeah.
All right. Um, I don't have any honorable mentions. We're going straight to number one for me. Um,
I hold on. I have honorable mentions, so maybe we'll.
do you want to do your honorable mentions now? Just quick fire.
I literally only have one. I literally only
Okay.
have one because originally I didn't. Originally I didn't have any. I just
Yeah.
thought of those five things. I was like, that's it. And then just before, I'm going to talk about the Hyperloop and
Yeah.
shipping, and I just realized I'd love to see a world where shipping and delivery services don't suck because currently the system is just such a stupid design. Like because everyone's at work during the day, and so no one's available to collect their packages, but they only deliver packages during the day. Like it's so frustrating. Like and
Yeah.
and then you have to call up and you have to get it re-delivered or you have to go in to pick it up from the actual depot and they get lost all the time. They're terrible at communicating. Shipping just sucks no matter which shipping company you're going with. It's terrible. um, and like you see videos on the internet all the time of like delivery men who literally just like don't even have the time to wait at the door because they're on such a tight schedule. They don't even have the time to deliver their thing. They just sign one of those things saying you missed your order. Even if people are home, they'll just chuck that in the letterbox and drive off because they're behind schedule or whatever. Because the
Yeah.
shipping companies are so strict and so ridiculous. Oh, that was yeah. I just had to rant about that because it
All
just sucks
right.
and that needs to be improved. And really briefly, I literally just thought of another honorable mention, which is I just realized, which is the system, the distribution of television. I think is has been improving recently. but still isn't at its peak. Isn't perfectly good enough. Like it's basically like the only way I can tolerate piracy is like I can understand why people will pirate television because
Yeah.
the system of distribution of television is really stupid.
Especially in New
It's
Zealand.
like yeah, like every country has to have individual rights to a TV show, and NBC, for example, can't just broadcast their TV show worldwide. I mean, why not? Why can't you just put it on your website for the whole world to see? Just like it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Netflix is doing, I think, really well with this, in that they're getting certain shows like The Good Place and Rick and Morty. They're getting them on Netflix same day as the US, and other streaming like TV3 and TVNZ are doing this also. Obviously, their platform's not as nice to use, so it's nicer to do that on the Netflix platform. Um, yeah, and obviously it stays for longer on Netflix, whereas on TVNZ it will last like 2 weeks max, and then it's gone. Um, yeah, so that's obviously something I want to see improve. The distribution of film, however, is perfectly adequate, and no one has any excuse to pirate a film. So just thought I'd shove that in there. Like, it just doesn't make sense why it's so bad. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. That's it.
All
Give
right.
us your number one.
Yeah. So my number one, like I was saying before, we've got another match, Ben. We have another match. Um,
Is it world peace?
nope.
Is okay. It's got to be
Self-driving,
self-driving. Okay.
self-driving cars. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So my reasoning for putting self-driving cars on mine is the fact that I still can't pass the driving test. Still mad about it. I've sat it 3 times and I've failed every time. So I've gotten to the
Oh
point now
wow.
where like if I'm probably gonna sit it like 2 more times and then I'm just gonna give up and I'm just gonna be like, nah, not happening. Just waiting for a self-driving car. Screw you, VT and Z.
Oh.
Bunch
Oh
of
dear.
bunch
Oh
of
dear.
pricks they are. Hate the VT and Z. Anyway,
mm.
um, no, I reckon self-driving cars are really cool. But Ben sort of mentioned most of it was that it's much more efficient. I mean, a lot of traffic is actually caused by like over braking and like sort of human error. So with
Yeah.
like computerized cars, that sort of stuff will be minimized. I remember as well. It was really interesting. It was I want to say it was the University of like Michigan or something. Don't quote me on that, but some sort of body that was doing some research about self-driving cars, which I found really interesting. It was sort of this moral question of it would ask you, so if you have like a self-driving car, right? That the self-driving car could like, if it got into an accident, would be programmed to veer off and to like crash that way, like saving other people and stuff, which was
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah.
But what it would do, it would give you different scenarios, um, to work out who would be the like car to sort of drive to veer off. And it would like change the people in the car, like the amount of people, um, who it is. So if it's like an old person or if it's like a criminal or whatever, um, to sort of to work out the moral implications of such a system, which I found really interesting. Um, and then, I mean, I think one of the things with self-driving cars as well is the fact that we are sort of seeing technology at a more rudiment, like a more basic level that are being used. Because I think it's Tesla that do it, um, who sort of have like an
Yeah.
autopilot feature when you're on like a
Yeah.
freeway or whatever. Um, and so that's really cool and really interesting as well. Um, I mean, my major reason for like wanting self-driverless cars is so I don't have to bother with the bureaucracy of getting a license because I'm annoyed about it. 'Cause I can't pass a
Yeah.
test.
I mean, it will be a long time before you can even get a self-driving car without a license, because for the foreseeable future, you're still gonna need to be able to react if something goes wrong or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it would be like at least 20 years. I think before the future is fully driverless, and you
Yeah.
can actually just buy a driverless car without a license. Um, yeah, I think it'll be a long time.
God damn it.
So I'd
Ben,
look
why?
into getting a driving instructor or someone to
Ben,
help you out with
I
that because
I have.
uh, maybe
It's
do maybe go to a smaller city, go down to Christchurch and do it. I mean, I'm not saying
yeah.
it's as great, but I mean, I passed first time in Christchurch. Maybe it's easy. I don't know. It
I
probably
don't
has
know.
nothing to do with it. I think
I think
the general system is pretty over strict
I
and
think it's
ridiculous considering how many terrible drivers there actually still are out on the road.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's also a case of test anxiety and stuff like that that happens. Like I get into that
yeah,
situation and then I get too
yeah,
nervous and then I make more mistakes. Um, so I think that's a
yeah,
factor
yeah.
as well. Um,
They should set up a system where it's like you don't know when you're being tested. Like it's just like a period, like within a period of a week or a couple of weeks or something. They monitor you. Like if you're driving just with your supervisor, like your parent or another driving instructor or someone,
yeah.
um, and they test you when you don't know that you're being tested, and that way
Oh
you wouldn't have
wow.
the anxiety problem as much probably.
Yeah.
That would be quite cool.
That would be
Uh,
interesting if they, yeah, how they would implement that. Yeah, for sure. Um, all right.
the other thing
Oh,
I was going to
yeah,
say about the driverless future is the self like the crash prevention. So even if you're driving, if the Tesla detects a crash, it will like swerve out of the way and or slow right down um, to stop you from getting into an accident. And there's so many videos. There's like these compilation videos of Teslas that detect crashes before you would see them coming. Like it's weird. Like it makes like this beepy sound and slows down, and then you see the crash happen. Like it's weird. It's like it knows it's about to happen just by looking at the cars in front of it. It's real
that's
creepy,
insane.
but it's also really really fascinating.
Yeah,
And on that topic of the whole moral question of who should
yeah,
be prioritized in terms of
yeah,
life, um, I mean, for me, it's an easy answer, and the answer would be is that it's a user preference, and that when you buy the car, you should be able to choose. I mean, if you paid that money for that car, you deserve to be the one who lives, unless you are the one breaking the law. And I think obviously there should be an overriding thing where if you are breaking the law, um, then you don't deserve to be prioritized there. Um,
yeah,
unless it's unless both parties are law breaking the law, then I don't know. But like
yeah,
I think it shouldn't be just a blanket always save the most number of lives, um, because it's in a lot of ways not fair because the person who bought the driverless car is investing in a safer future because
yeah,
driverless cars are safer.
yeah,
They're putting that investment in, and they want it to be safer, and they obviously want it to be safer for themselves as well. That's part of the reason why they bought that car, right? So it's not fair to to necessarily if they don't want to be prioritized, or what's the opposite of prioritize, deprioritize as the lowest, you know, you know the person who should live or die or whatever, you know. Um,
yeah, yeah.
so I think definitely user preference has to be an option, has to be an option for sure. Yeah.
So, Ben, what's your number one pick?
My number one pick is less tech related, although it's slightly related, but it's related to film, and that is I want to see uh common adoption at least of high frame rate films. Um, this is a real controversial one because people who are like quote unquote film buffs and all this kind of thing, people hate the idea of high frame rate films, and there's very little reason for it. I think if you don't know, film is traditionally shot in 24 frames per second. And the reason for that was technically 23.976, I believe, frames per second. The reason for that is back in the old days of film, 24 was the least number of frames that they could use, and have fluid motion and have synchronized audio as well. That was the least number of frames they could get that to work, basically. So it was literally just the cheapest option because film is super expensive, and so literally the reason they chose that number is because it was the cheapest option. And because cinema's been like that for however many years, all films are shot that way. All films look like that. As soon as a film comes out that doesn't look like that, people are like, "Ooh, gross! It looks weird," because they're not used to it. Now I saw The Hobbit, all three Hobbit movies in high frame rate, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it definitely took a while to get used to, but my initial reaction, like to seeing those movies, was aside from the quality of the movies, like the actual experience of seeing it in high frame rate, I thought was really nice. And I think it fit for that genre, that fantasy genre. I think it works as well. And I think it's something that people are just too harsh on. People who, I think people are too harsh saying that it's not going to work and all that. Like, but no, just try it with a few more movies. You might like it more than you think. That's, yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that, Matt?
Um, Not really. I don't think I've actually seen a film in a higher frame rate than usual. So I really have like nothing
Right.
to add to the
Okay.
conversation. Yeah,
I mean,
unfortunately.
like you see it all the time. Like YouTubers, a lot of YouTubers are shooting 60 frames per second video, and that looks great. Like it looks great. It feels more like you're literally talking to them. Like they're there with you. Um, and HDR is another thing which will add to the realism for sure, because HDR, high dynamic range, definitely makes things feel more lifelike, um, and more realistic, um, and is something that it is currently available. A lot of movies supply HDR versions online and on Blu-ray and stuff as well, and you get a HDR TV which will show it. You'll be blown away if you get an LG OLED. They're really the only ones. I think there might be a Panasonic one that now does it, but there are some like things that TVs that brand themselves as HDR, but they're not really. So that's definitely a first step towards realism in film. Um, but I also in television, of course. But I also think higher frame rates is also something that we should play with a bit more because basically, even, like I was really excited. I think a lot of people were excited to see The Hobbit, and then as soon as it came out, everyone's just like, nah, let's ignore that. Let's never do that again, which I think is unfair. I think more filmmakers need to experiment with it and stop, and the studios need to stop worrying about the cost because well now they're producing movies in 4K, so it's not like the cost. It's not like they care enough about. I guess they care about cost because people want 4K, so then they'll make it 4K. But like, and people aren't asking for high frame rates, so I guess there's no incentive for the
Yeah,
studios to put money
yeah,
into it because
yeah,
they're not gonna see a profit out of it. But I think it's
exactly.
just if you're an indie filmmaker or you want to experiment, I think you should just do it. Screw the standards. I hate the idea of standards. Like everything has to be shot in 23.976 so that it can be converted to to international broadcast standards. But no one who cares about broadcast like film. Everything's digital. Everything's digital these days. None of those standards matter anymore. So just like do something new, do something fresh. And obviously, there's always the option to convert down because, like, obviously they shot it in 48 frames, The Hobbit, in 48 frames, so that they could also convert it easily to 24. Um, and you do that, like, so it had to be if you are going to do a high frame rate film, make it a multiple of 23.976. Otherwise, you won't be able to, sell a normal version of it. Um, but yeah, I think that's something that people need to do because every other genre, every other medium, people want high frame rates. So YouTube videos, people want high frame rates. Gaming, obviously, you need high frame rates
Yeah,
because in that case, you need reaction speed. But there are people who say like, "Oh, film, you don't need reaction speed because you just experience it in the film." Well, why not? Like, I want to see that faster. Why can't I react to a film faster? It's like It's not a valid point. And there's also the point about motion blur. A lot of people say 24p has nice natural motion blur. You can, but you could still. It's not 100% true, really. It actually is more to do with the shutter speed than the frame rate. And if like I've not experienced too much myself, but I believe if you set your speeds correctly, you can still get natural motion blur at a higher frame rate. Yeah, it's just people who hate change. People hate change for no reason, and I hate that people hate change. Yeah, that's what I
All
would say.
right.
That's what I want to make. If we're making short films, why for Red Laugh Riot? Let's make them in 48 frames a second. Why not?
All right. I don't have, like I said, I don't have strong feelings either way. So I'm sort of just like leaning back and just letting you rant away.
Yeah. All right.
It was weird being on that other side there, of like just listening to
Really?
someone
Yeah.
rant, because it's usually me doing the rants. But to be fair,
Yeah.
you ran about like you rant about like more like I don't know, like more smarter stuff, while I'm like, you know what really grinds my gears? Like
Yeah.
what
As
have I've ranted about dumb stuff so far on this
Yeah, I mean the
podcast.
whole metric system thing. That's not
To be fair,
necessarily a
that's
dumb thing. It's hilarious the
yeah,
way you talk about it. I mean, yeah,
yeah.
it's
It's
more
so
like
stupid though. Why do they not?
yeah,
Ah.
yeah,
All
exactly
right.
like that.
Yeah. All right. So, that's officially our top fives done. If anyone's listening live, or if you're listening to this after the fact, feel free to leave like a comment down below on if you have any like your top fives. Do you agree with us? What are you looking forward to in the future? You know, sound off, please, because then that will make our last topic, our last segment good. Because otherwise we have nothing to read, and then it's awkward. Um, we have now reached our main topic. So as we said before, today is the 21st of October, and so that was the day that old Marty and the Doc went back in time to. So to celebrate that, we're going to talk about Back to the Future. Um, I don't know exactly what we're going to say. How about let's start off on what we thought of the film? I think that's a good way to start, and then I'm sure a rant will develop from there.
Yeah, I mean it's for me it's at least one of my favorite film trilogies, film series of all time. Like it's just it's a perfect trilogy, I think. Uh, you know, right up there with like Toy Story, Lord of the Rings. You don't
Yeah.
hear about all these perfect trilogies. Although Toy Story's gonna have a fourth movie and ruin all of that. But um, yeah, it's I don't know how else to describe it. It's just brilliant. It's just brilliant. I just love it.
Hmm.
My favorite one as a kid was always Back to the Future 2
Okay.
because of the whole future thing and the
Yeah.
complexity of it. Whereas for a lot of other people, it's their least favorite. Um, and also a lot of people number 3 is their least favorite. But then as I kind of rewatched them uh, in more recent years with a growing film maturity or understanding, I guess, I saw what people were saying about the second one. But then also with the third one, I enjoyed it way more than I used to because it's just it's also really really good. I can't actually rank them. I think the 3 movies are equal for me. I can't rate them one higher or the other. I think the second one for me, I might still say it's my favorite just because it's the most impressive. I think it's the most impressive because a lot of people might think that they shot the first 2 movies like at the same time so they could get all that continuity flow with those scenes that bleed together. But it's actually the complete opposite. They shot 2 and 3 at the same time or back to back. Because the first film came out in 1985. They didn't the second and third one didn't come out till 89. Sorry, 88 and 89, or it was 89 and 90. I can't remember. It was a couple of years, a few years after the first one, because obviously making the first one, they didn't even know that there was going to be a sequel. yeah, so once they obviously made the sequel, they wanted to go back to the original movie, and you probably wouldn't even notice, but the Marty's girlfriend Jennifer, that's her name, was recast. And like you know how like the first scene of the second movie is the same as the last scene of the first movie. It's actually a different. They actually reshot that because there's a different actor playing the
Oh, that's
girlfriend,
funny.
which like when you're younger, you wouldn't. A lot of the time, you wouldn't even notice. You'd think, um, if you unless you watch the movies back to back, you wouldn't notice the difference, um, because this like basically the exact same. And also the same is said for the scenes when he goes back to 1955 and he sees himself and all of that. It was all reshot and like carefully planned out exactly as it was in the first movie. There are only I think two shots in the whole film that were reused, um, and those are the two shots of Crispin Glover, because he didn't want to come on to the second movie, and there was actually a whole. I think there was even a court case. He got really mad that they used footage of him in the second movie without his permission.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and I don't know what his contract stipulated, whether his contract said he was whether they could do that or not. So um, yeah, like yeah, it's just really impressive to me how they pulled that off and made it feel seamless. Because as a kid, I totally thought they shot those back to back or at the same time so that they could obviously keep the continuity the same. But yeah, I feel it's really impressive what they did there. And the complexity of the story, a lot of people say it's overcomplicated, that movie. But I really enjoy it. I really enjoy a complex story like that, where it goes back across different timelines and all this kind of stuff. I think it's really, really fun. Um, and yeah, I would say it's my favorite, but I wouldn't say it's the best necessarily. I think they're all equal on that. What are your thoughts?
All right. Full disclosure time. I haven't seen the third one. My bad.
Oh,
Um,
really?
but the first two I really enjoyed. I prefer. I think I prefer the first one over the second one.
Mm.
Um, I think the thing with Back to the Future is it's one of those franchises that has a like rewatchability as well as like it's not like, yeah, I wouldn't say it's like a perfect film, but I think it's a I don't know how to word it. It's like it's one of those films that you sort of like everyone just loves. It sort of has that universe, yeah, that sort of universal love to it. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was films when I did watch them, and I only watched them relatively recently. I think it was like within like the last year or two, probably. Like last year or like the year before, is
Okay.
sort of when I finally actually
Right.
watched them. But no, I did really enjoy them. Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed with the acting, with the story for the most part. I mean, I think there is that weird aspect, especially with the first one, of like Marty's mum hitting on her son, you know? So you sort of have a little bit of like that creep factor to it, you know? But yeah, I mean, I think it's something that it's pretty easy for viewers to sort of push away. And I guess it's also sort of that angle's sort of played up for laughs, which is pretty cool. Um,
Yeah.
not pretty cool, but you know, um, yeah, I don't know. It's yeah. I mean, it's just two films that I thought were like really well made, and I wasn't, I didn't find myself getting bored. I sort of found myself sort of enjoying the journey that the filmmakers were presenting to me, um,
Yeah.
which was really interesting. I mean, also there's obviously the fact that Back to the Future has the coolest time travel machine ever in like media, I would argue. I mean, maybe the TARDIS gives it, but I would
Yeah.
argue a DeLorean is like the coolest time machine ever. Surely, it's got to go to the
Yeah.
DeLorean. It's got to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think another thing to note though with Back to the Future is the fact that more so with this, well, not more so, but with the second one, in regards to the second one, is it has the with all the technological like predictions it made, it actually got a lot of stuff like right. I mean, obviously not to like exactly how it is, um,
Yeah,
but there is a lot of technology there that is legit.
because they
Yeah,
knew they weren't going to get it right, so they just went over the top. Like, they
yeah,
obviously didn't think there were going to be flying cars in 2015. But as a kid, because I grew up with these movies, I believed that, and I was like, "Oh, I can't wait for 2015. We'll have flying cars." Like, I genuinely thought that would be the future.
yeah,
And yeah, because it seemed so distant for me. You know, when you're a kid and you've only lived for 6, 7, I can't remember how old I was at the time, 7 years or whatever. It feels like 2015 is like ages away. You know,
yeah,
like 10 years. That's forever away. I haven't even lived that long.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
or whatever. So yeah, I genuinely thought that was gonna happen. I was kind of sad when it got to like 2012, and it was like, yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen, eh?
Yeah,
It was like,
yeah,
yeah, but yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, it's
yeah.
really
What it got
impressive what
right.
what they did got right, and that's true for a lot of, uh, especially like dystopian novels and things, like things that
Yes.
were written years and years ago, even
Yeah.
100 years ago, have predicted both societal changes and technological advancements as well.
Yeah.
It's really kind of almost frightening to see how much they predicted we would do. Like,
Yeah, definitely. It is for sure like so impressive because it's like uncanny, you know? It's like, these things that people sort of dream up and then and the development from science, something being science fiction X years ago to actually being science like fact is like
yeah,
really interesting because it's like yeah. Well, yeah, like the stuff that they predicted was like they got like a lot of stuff right in that second film. I mean, they got like video conferencing, like Skype.
oh yeah, yeah,
So they got that right. My mind's blanking. I like literally yesterday read like an article of like all the stuff that they got right, and I can't
yeah.
remember
I
anything
mean,
from it.
The Nike lace up shoes are an interesting one because obviously they were only developed because of the movie,
Yeah,
and I think they were released 2 or 3 years ago. I think. Um, yeah, so they exist, but obviously because they were inspired by the movie, which is really interesting. You know, like, do you think they would have come up with that technology without the movie or not? Probably not.
yeah, probably not. Yeah,
'Cause it's not something you think about.
yeah. Um, it's always an interesting question, of like, what would happen if X didn't happen, and asking those types of questions, especially when it comes to history.
You definitely, well, all I can say is you definitely need to watch the third movie. I can't believe you haven't. Then again, if you only saw them recently, that's not as bad.
No, I had heard that the third one wasn't very good, so I was like, I'll just
Really?
I'll just
Okay,
flag it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is complete and utter garbage. It's a really good movie. Definitely, I don't know if you were thinking of watching the third movie. I just had the thought that
Yeah.
if you haven't seen the second movie, at least recently, I'd go back and watch it because I think those two movies like are basically one movie in two movies. They're like, having two Infinity War movies. Um, they go hand in hand because the story is continuous through those two movies. And I would say if you're gonna watch the third movie, go back and rewatch the second movie before you watch the third movie, just so you have it fresh in your mind. Because I think they flow together really, really well.
Okay.
And maybe that's why people don't like it as much because the third one doesn't stand on its own as well. It fits better with the second movie alongside it, I think. Even
Right.
though they're vastly different films, the story just like goes right into it. They just go right into each other, and it's beautiful. I think that third movie is it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely as a kid I enjoyed it the least, but now I enjoy it almost more than the first one. I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you do
it's a
you
really
do have them ranked then?
no. I have my personal favorites. I think I would go 2, 3, 1.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of like what I think is the best, I can't say one film is better than the other.
Okay.
I can't say that.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with ranking, I guess, because you can rank stuff personal favorites versus better. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of the time with top,
Like that's what we do with our top 5 lists. They're all personal favorites. Like it's
yeah,
not like it's definitively what I think is the best movie or TV show or whatever.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all just opinions, isn't it? You know,
Exactly,
it's
it's
just
completely
like,
subjective medium. Yeah.
yeah. It's like I might be like, I mean, I haven't watched the third film, but like, you know, after I watch it, I might be like, that wasn't good, and then you'll be like, what are you talking about? That was great, you know, and that's
Yeah, it is
that's
great.
fat.
It's really great.
That's
Um,
fascinating.
right. I was gonna ask if you wanted to talk about fan theories because there's at least one fan theory that I think needs to be talked about when you talk about Back to the Future, which is the question of how come when like you would think that after Marty has been in the past, and his parents are familiar with his face, you'd think that they would recognize him after he was born,
Yeah,
right? So do you think that they just forgot about him completely and didn't know it was him, or do you think, like, I think there's a theory of Doc actually went and talked to them and explained the whole situation and like said, like, I know this sounds far fetched, but I can tell you all these things about um, about Marty and what he looks like and everything, and that would verify that with them because they remember seeing that person, and then he's going to
right.
say he's actually your son. You're gonna give birth to him. He's gonna be your third kid. So name your third kid Marty, because at the end she's like, Marty, such a nice name. But then
Yeah,
her first kid, I can't remember what his name is. It's not Marty. So did
yeah,
she just forget that she liked the name Marty and then remembered for the third kid? I don't think so. I think Doc told them that, because I mean, how else would have? You can't explain it any other way. Like, obviously the parents would have noticed. They would have noticed. Yeah,
yeah.
and
I mean,
that would have freaked them out for sure. It would be hilarious
maybe.
because George McFly would be suspicious of Lorraine because
Oh,
cause
she
he
would think.
remembers that she had a crush on that guy and that now
Yeah,
their son looks like that guy.
yeah.
That would be a bit creepy.
It's a good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. It is a good point, but on the other hand, it's like how many people like could you recall a face of like some random kid and that went to your high school? So maybe it's a case of literally just like how many people's faces can you recall that went to like a high school? Like went to like your high school, you know?
I think I can remember every face.
You
I think I would.
bullshit.
Nah, I like, especially if I've interacted with them. If I had a
Yeah.
crush on them, I'm definitely going to remember their face, like, because it's the exact same face. It's not just like, oh, he looks kind of like him. Once he turns like 15, you're going to be like, that's literally the guy I had a crush on in high school. Like, you don't forget faces like that. I think you might forget a face if you've literally never talked to them or interacted with them or anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's pretty hard to believe that she would just forget his face.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
But I'd like to do
That's
a
good.
test actually. I'd like to, like, and we're not like saying 10 years after you try and recognize him because a lot of people look different. But we're saying like he looked, he was however old he was, 18 or 19 or whatever. He was that old, so it's the same. You're comparing the same face. So I'd be interested to do a test of like looking back at just photos of people I went to school with, from photos from the time that I went to school with them, and see if I
Yeah.
recognize them. I reckon I'd get 99% for sure. Like I can't think. I guess it's with obviously I can't think of a single person who I don't remember, which obviously that sentence doesn't make a lot of sense. Of course you don't remember them. But I would be surprised if I'd forgotten any faces at all, actually.
Interesting. Um, yeah.
I
No,
might
I
not remember
reckon.
their names. Names are harder to remember than faces, so.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Maybe I'm associate. Yeah. Maybe I was thinking more.
You know what else is going to happen? She's
What?
going to realize that Calvin Klein wasn't his real name because Calvin Klein underwear will come out and she'll recognize that it's the exact same,
Yeah.
She'd be like, "Hold on, that wasn't his name. He was a like." It'd be so obvious. Like it's by the time Marty grows up, it'd be so obvious that it was him. There's no other way to explain. Unless Doc wiped their memories, if he invented a way to wipe their memories, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't that successful with any of his other inventions.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. Um, at the moment, I'm just looking at a list of fan theories at the moment.
Oh yeah.
Um, okay, so there's one theory called the Marty Martyr theory, um, which states fans think in an effort to stop the potential paradox of Marty meeting himself, Doc does something very dark. Instead of Marty watching Doc send himself off to the past, fans think Doc sends the second Marty, Marty B, to his death. In some theories, Doc convinces Marty B to die, and in others, he never tells him. Gruesome and bad
Wait, what?
luck. Marty B, the Marty Marty. What?
I don't think I understood any of what you just said.
I didn't understand anything I just said there. Okay, so I just found a theory that was sort of echoing the one that you mentioned, in that um fans have always wondered why Marty's parents never recognized him when he grew up, but in this fan theory they did, or at least George did. The theory states that George figured it out slowly with building evidence, finding out his visit from an alien involved two of the largest space franchises of all time, coming
Oh
home to a
yeah.
burned carpet, and the words of Calvin echoing their head to go easy on him, along with all the other little details. But fans state George never told Marty because he knew his son needed to go back in time the exact same way. Good old George
Yeah.
being responsible with time travel.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good theory, but it doesn't explain Lorraine's side.
Yeah,
She would probably freak out if she recognized him. Like, 'cause that's like life altering,
yeah,
Like, that's just weird. Maybe George would explain it to her. If George noticed, he could explain it to her. But I think Doc is smart enough to know that he should be the one to tell them. Like, he should tell
yeah.
them. Because he knows how bad the repercussions would be if, if they found out, you know? Like, yeah.
It is a very good point. Oh yeah, this was an interesting theory I remember reading. So it states many fans have wondered why, after stating that his inventions never worked, Doc Brown would put himself and Marty in the path of the DeLorean, going 88 miles per hour. While some fans have explained this away with a rather dark theory. For them, Doc Brown, depressed from his failure as an inventor, has chosen to take his life through one of his inventions. The theory just becomes darker when you consider he forced Marty to participate, leading some to consider it a murder-suicide attempt. Luckily, the
Wow.
DeLorean was the one invention Doc could get to work.
Wow. It's dark for sure.
That's really dark. It's like, hey, remember this like light and fluffy film?
Yeah.
Psych.
I mean, the thing is, I guess people often say none of his inventions worked. That's not actually true. In 1955, none of his inventions worked because you see him working on that mind reading device, and it's just one of the funniest scenes. Um, and but actually, you see at the beginning of the movie, you've seen like his whole automated system of feeding the dog and cooking putting his coffee on all that kind of stuff. So he has invented things that have worked, at least minor things. Obviously, nothing probably as major as a time machine, but he has definitely got some things that work. In 1985, that is.
Yeah.
He was probably inspired. You'd think he'd be inspired because now that he knows his invention's going to work, he knows he's going to build a time machine. He's going to devote his life to that, and he's going to be inspired by that, I guess. To discuss. If
Cool.
you love Back to the Future, let us know because we want to hear your voice as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Feel free to sound off in the comments whether you're watching this live or not. And that way we can read out the comments in one of our later segments. That would be great because that's what gives us your comments build that segment. And
Absolutely.
without them, the segment
Absolutely.
is not good.
Yeah,
um,
exactly. So you can comment on Facebook and Twitter and all those places, and obviously you can listen in live on Twitch and comment on Twitch, and we will answer your questions live. Even more fun. Yeah. So please do that.
Sweet.
But anyway, moving on. Our next segment of the podcast is
What you doing?
and so this is a segment of the podcast where we talk about what we've been doing slash reading slash watching, and what we would like to do slash read slash watch in the future. So Matt, do you want to start us off?
I shall. Um, so interestingly enough, I have once again been relatively slack in my watching of films and TVs this week, unfortunately. But having said that, I have watched some very, very interesting things. All right, so this is going to be a very interesting week in terms of things Matt has watched. Um, so I ended up watching old coverage of an EPT. So in the EPT stands for the European Poker Tour. Um, so I watched that. I watched coverage of both the main event, and then I also watched. Oh, so I watched coverage of the main event of the EPT, which was in Barcelona, um, in like August or something. I think was when it was. And then I also went and watched um, the PCA, which stands for the Poker Stars Caribbean Adventure, which is in the Bahamas, which is a poker tournament in the Bahamas, and it was the High Roller tournament that I watched. Um, yeah, I like watching poker. I don't know why I like watching poker. I mean, I prefer playing poker than watching it. In fact, funnily enough, all three of us involved in um all three of us involved in Red Laugh Riot um all at the start of the year played poker together, which was really interesting, and hopefully maybe in the future we'll make some content that will involve us playing poker because I really enjoy playing poker. um
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
no,
I miss
um
those. I miss those games.
yeah, so we played. Yeah, so I watched these guys play poker, and it was insane the stuff they were doing. They were playing hands that I would never play. They were pulling off bluffs, and it was really interesting to see how professionals, play it. Um, yeah, so that was one of the things that I watched. What else did I watch? I watched one other thing that I was going to talk about. Oh yeah, so I watched this video on, and it was by Achievement Hunter, which by Achievement Hunter rather, um, which was one of the subsidiaries of the channel of Rooster Teeth that I talked about back in the YouTube podcast. Um, so they did a little video where they were playing the very popular game The Floor is Lava. Do you know that game, Ben?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they're
Yes.
playing that, and they were literally like running across like and like jumping across like their desks in their office, and just
Mm.
like everything was breaking. And then at one point, so it was split into like two separate videos. The first half, everyone who did it was successful, managed to actually finish the course, and then the others they all failed, and it was so funny watching these guys just completely wipe out and just break a bunch of things in their office. um
Yeah.
I found that really funny, and it made really, really good content. um so yeah, that was really interesting. Yeah. So in regards to things that I want to watch, um it's still the same stuff. Um. Oh, you know what? I'll mention something. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I've been meaning to watch it for a while. Um. I really want to watch that documentary called Tickled. Um.
Oh yeah.
Which, for those who don't know, it's about this sort of goes into like competitive tickling, which is apparently a thing. And then just starts getting like as the film continues, it slowly becomes darker and darker. Yeah,
Yeah, I just had a thought, Matt, because that's
yeah.
also on my list of things to watch. Um, we should we should get together and watch it, and chuck some alcohol in there, and record a commentary for that.
We should. That would be amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
So yeah. So
whoa.
one of our ideas for Red Love Riot and some content would be to do movie commentaries, and this is inspired because a few months ago maybe I can't remember now when it was, but we um wait, Matt,
Yes.
wait, were you there when we watched yeah,
Train
you
to.
were when we watched those Train to Busan,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I was there.
yeah, I couldn't
I
remember
was.
if you were there or not. Yeah, so we watched Train to Busan and The Mist,
The mist was
the
so
old movie.
bad.
Um, and they're both. I mean, Train to Busan's not horrific, but they're not. It's not great. And Mist was awful, and it was hilarious because we were just like we had some alcohol and we were just commenting over it, and just it was lots and lots of fun. So that's one idea we had for something that we should do for content, because you see movie commentaries all the time, but it's always people who have already seen the movie. So we want to do stuff where we watch the movie for the first time and talk about it, because that's kind of, yeah, something that I think we should definitely do that for Tickled. That could be our first one,
Yeah.
because I've wanted to watch that for a while.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah,
All right,
cool.
Ben.
Right,
Do you
was there anything
wanna?
else on your list?
That's all I can think of that I haven't mentioned already. Um,
Cool.
I really need to pick up the slack. I need to pick up my own
Yeah.
slack. I've been slack
Well,
for like the last 3 weeks.
speaking of picking up slack, I've certainly tried to do that myself. I've tried to motivate myself to watch more movies just for the sake of it, because I don't watch enough movies, and it's kind of bad. Uh, calling myself a fan of movies, but hardly ever watching them. So this week I watched Manchester by the Sea,
Oh,
which
yes.
I bought on iTunes recently because it was cheap and I've heard good things about it, so I decided to watch it. And damn, it's a really hard hitting, beautiful, well made film.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's right up there. It's not the kind of film that's like entertaining necessarily. It's just like a really I would say enjoyable experience, because I just enjoy good movies. But yeah, a lot of people might find it a bit on the depressing side, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
But like
yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
I really enjoyed it.
I think it's I'll just jump on to talking about that film because I saw it in like I saw it in the lead up to the Oscars when it was nominated for Best Picture, because I wanted
Yeah,
to watch all the Best Picture noms. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, in terms of it as a film, yeah, I thought it was really great because um, like yes, it's a slow burn, but it's it seems that it's and more so with its acting performances was sort of the major thing that I noted, was that it's very much the actors sort of act on more of like a micro level as opposed to the macro level, you
right,
know? So like their performances are little like which is really interesting because and obviously, you know, it starred Casey Affleck, um, whose performance was fantastic. But I think the performance to note in that film um, was Lucas Hedges, um, who's this really young guy, really young actor, um,
right,
who's been in he was in Manchester by the Sea, he was in Lady Bird, he was in Three Billboards, so he's already had a really like a ridiculously successful career, and he was nominated in um you, yeah, so and he was nominated for an Oscar. I think it was for Manchester by the Sea from memory. Um which was
Yeah,
insane for such a
he
young
won.
actor. Did he
Wait, hold on.
win?
Oh no, sorry, my mistake. Casey Affleck won.
Yeah.
Who-
I don't think he was
um,
nominated in the same category though. I think he
no,
was.
he was sorry. Yeah, he was nominated for best supporting actor, and then also Casey won best leading.
Yeah, no, but it was a film that it sort of let itself shine, but it's a film that you sort of have to lean into to like really understand, which I've found really interesting. Unfortunately, um, after remembering that he was in that film, made me remember a film that's on my list to watch, and that's a film called Boy Erased, which is about a young guy who again Lucas Hedges, who's the leading role in this film, and it's about this young guy so he's outed to his parents who are his dad's like a pastor, um and so he gets sent off to a gay conversion therapy camp, um and so he's sort of trying to navigate that. And then also, Troye Sivan is in it. He used to be a YouTuber. Now he's just singing. He's done a little bit of acting work as well. But it looks really, really good. And I really, really want to see it. When it comes out, and I think it comes out in like November or something like that.
Right.
Um,
Have you?
yeah,
I want to ask. Have you seen all of the best picture nominees from 2017?
yeah, I've seen all of them.
You seen all of them? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I basically because I kind of follow along with it. I keep all these movies in my mind, and whenever I see them pop up for cheap on iTunes,
Oh, then you watch
that's when
them.
I watch. Yeah,
Yeah.
because yeah, yeah. So I've seen Arrival, Hacksaw Ridge, Hello High Water, Lion. I actually saw Lion in cinemas.
Yeah,
And
I did too.
Manchester by the Sea and Moonlight. I think out of those ones, at least, my personal favorite's Hella High Water. The
Oh yeah.
screenwriter of that movie also did Sicario and Wind River, which I love both of those movies as well. Um, um, and Manchester by the Sea is probably my second favorite out of those. Yeah, really. Yeah. Do you? What's your opinion on those movies? What do you think's the best, or what's your favorite?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. Yeah, I did enjoy Moonlight. And I was happy when it won. I thought La La Land was gonna win.
Yeah,
But I wanted Moonlight to win. Yeah, so I really did enjoy Hello High Water. I thought that was really good. Um,
yeah,
Line as well. Line was just like a real good sort of tearjerker. I mean, I didn't cry in it, but like just the emotional feels, of it.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Arrival was really good. Arrival surprised me.
Really, Arrival also surprised me because I
Yeah.
didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would.
Oh, okay, because
It's an
yeah,
interesting one.
I did the opposite. Yeah, I enjoyed it more. I think it's because, in regards to sci-fi as a genre, it's not that I dislike sci-fi films, but I don't like.
Right,
They're not my favorite. I think it's the easiest way to put it. Um,
right. Yeah,
so
well,
yeah,
for
no,
me, it's
I
like
just thought it was really clever.
I wanted to watch it because it was directed by I'm gonna say his name wrong, Dennis Villeneuve,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
along those lines, who directed Sicario and Prisoners. Prisoners is one of my favorite films of all time. Was that? That wasn't even on my list. I don't know if that was on my honorable mentions or not, but yeah. Anyway, uh, I that's why I want to see it. And that's why I was so hyped to see it, and the trailers looked amazing. And then I left disappointed because I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was really thrilling all the way through. But then I think I just felt unresolved at the end of it. Um, yeah, I can't actually remember exactly what I thought, but I felt a little bit left empty at the end. It felt like it felt like it hadn't ended properly. Yeah, that's really what I thought about it. Anyway,
Alright.
we spent a long time talking about the Oscars,
Yeah.
which is quite funny, because that's potentially something we could do a separate podcast or a separate topic on.
We easily can do one.
Yeah,
sorry for hijacking your side of the segment.
Manchester
My
by the
bad.
Sea. Yeah. All right, so that's the first movie I watched this week. And then the other movie I watched, I went to the cinemas, and I saw Bad Times at the El Royale.
Oh.
And hot damn, this is a really good movie. It's really really enjoyable. And I watched Jeremy John's review of it before I saw it. And I have to disagree with him. He said he thought it would be a better time if you were drunk. And I would say it's a bloody good time with no alcohol required. I thought it was really really enjoyable the whole way through. And I thought he had some valid points in his review for sure, but I think those points can be easily countered. Yeah, I think it's really enjoyable. Everyone should go watch it because it feels a little bit like a Tarantino movie crossed with something else. I don't know. It's just really fun. I should tell you, you should all go watch it. Maybe crossed with the Chris Nolan movie almost. Not quite as mind-bending or anything like that, but yeah, lots and lots of fun. I encourage you to all go support it because it's one of those movies that I guess it's not a huge appeal, or at least not in its marketing. It's probably got a huge appeal, apart from people who like Chris Hemsworth and will go to see it because of him. And I don't think he has a shirt on for any of the movie. Yeah.
I'm sold. I'm sold.
Exactly.
Man.
Yeah.
Sold.
Go watch it, everyone, all of our 2 listeners, go watch it.
All right.
And whatever. Oh yeah. Also, I watched. Of course, I'm continuing to watch The Good Place. I'll probably mention it every bloody week now because there's a new episode every week.
Yeah.
And it took a turn in the most recent episode. I won't say what happened, obviously, but I'm not 100% on board with it at the moment. Actually, I thought it took a turn that I thought was a bit odd. But I'm keen, obviously, to see where it goes because it's a really good show up to this point. I'm sure it hopefully won't go downhill too much. And what else? I think that's all I really watched this week. But Daredevil Season 3 came out last night, or actually the night before, and I'm definitely going to be watching that at some point. I'll probably start tonight, actually. I've decided I'm not going to bother watching Season 2 of Luke Cage and Iron Fist. So both those shows got cancelled in the last week.
Oh, wow.
They're not going ahead with a Season 3 on either of those shows. But they're almost definitely going to do a new show called Heroes for Hire, which is basically a show where the 2 of them are going to be in the same show. Almost definitely that's going to happen. Whether it happens on Netflix or whether it happens on Disney's new streaming platform is yet to be determined. Yeah, like Tash has just said, a lot of people are saying Season 2 of Iron Fist is way better. Obviously, how could it not be? Season 1 was awful. Season 1 was awful. And they fired the writer and the showrunner of that show finally. I can't believe they didn't fire him earlier because he made Inhumans as well, which is another trash one. Anyway, so yeah, a lot of people are saying that those 2 seasons are not bad, but I just can't be bothered at the moment. I'd rather see Daredevil. Maybe I'll go back and watch after I've watched Daredevil because I've been told, I've asked online, they say you don't need to have seen those 2 seasons to watch Daredevil, so I'll just go ahead and watch it and then maybe go back to watch the previous seasons. Yeah, that's all that's really on my list though for this week. So I guess that leads us on to our last delectable segment of the show, which is the crunchy comments, which is of course where we read your comments that we've been telling you to leave us. And yeah, today we had one listener listening live earlier on in the show. That was Jerome again, but he had to go because he had a friend coming around or something like that. Anyway, so basically all he said was, hello guys, and I love Tash, which is great to hear. Guys,
Alright.
comment. Just
Yeah,
say anything.
please.
Literally say anything. It doesn't even have to be related to what we're talking about. You can ask us literally any question ever, anything you want, or just say a comment. We want to read it. We want to know who's listening. We want to interact. Yeah,
For
so we
sure,
don't
for
feel
sure.
like we're just talking to thin air. Yeah.
Yeah. Leave it. And you can leave that comment anywhere, whether it be live on Twitch or on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter. What else are we on? Ambit.
Yeah.
Also, feel free to check out our website. That's redlaughriot.com. All one word. I think that's it. I think we're done for this week. I've been Matt.
I've been Ben. See you next time.
Goodbye.